I wanted to ask you a little bit about the system tweaks in terms of your sort of flow offense from last year, or even from the past 5 or 6 years with Quin, because it seemed very not robotic, but it seemed like there was a sort of point A to point B to point C, and then you get to the pick and roll. And then when we watched the film on you guys the other day, I was like, oh, they're doing a little bit, different. There's the UCLA cut to start, and there's a much more corner pick and rolls. You guys obviously play with 4 shooters. Where did that sort of development come from? What was Quin's thinking there?
I think, with Q, he's been waiting to kind of get the right group of guys together to be able to ultimately, put a system in place, but within that system, have guys that can be, make plays and have multiple ball handlers and shooters on the court. So, like you said, we do run a pretty simple system when it comes to, our flow offense. But once we get to our spots, it becomes, 1 or 2 reads, and then guys just play. You got Donovan trying to, get to the rim, Jordan Clarkson trying to get to the rim, myself trying to make plays, and, Boyan, everybody spacing the floor. So with that kind of personnel, we've just kind of had to really work on, understanding when we can and can't, break that system. And we've done a good job with it, I guess, so far.
One of the hardest things to guard to me is when you're in a help position, specifically if you're the low man, and then you've got to close out onto a shooter. And you guys are playing with 4 shooters. Last night you just I'm assuming we're going to make some adjustments, but last night you had us running around, and it was to the point where I'm like, yo, for us to get a stop, we basically have to have like 5 perfect closeouts where you're able to run a guy off the line and contain the basketball, because it was just like downhill. I think that's one of the things in playing the way you do, but also with the personnel you have, because you have to have the right personnel. And with Royce and Bogdan, on the wings, it's sort of a perfect fit along with Rudy as the rim runner.
It really is, and like you said, it's not an easy thing to do. We've got a lot of guys who can do a lot of good things offensively, but you have to sacrifice, drive the ball and make plays for one another, and that's something that a lot of teams don't really want to do. And I think we've learned from Coach and the way he's kind of beat it in our heads that to be unselfish and to make the right plays and the right reads. And you got guys like Rudy who don't get enough credit for what he does, and the magnitude of him rolling to the rim just puts a lot of pressure on teams. So as long as we continue to build around that kind of chemistry, it's like you said, it is. I hate guarding closeouts and multiple action, like playing the Spurs and stuff like that. Like I hate it. Those are the longest nights ever.
That's what it felt like last night. It felt like the Spurs circa 2014. That's the best. That's the best approximation of what it felt like last night.
Was Joe talking shit to you last night? Joe,
to me?
Because he went off.
I mean, he was talking shit all during warmups. When I told him during warmups that we were having Mike on the podcast, and he goes, "What are you running out of guests?"
Oh yeah, he's a hater. He's a hater.
Joe really is the worst. You mentioned sacrifice, and I this is something I wanted to get into you with, but you were never like a ball dominant point guard the way that some other guys are when you played in Memphis. But playing alongside Donovan, last year I would assume was a bit of an adjustment, and there has been, I think, some sacrifice for you to your usage and the amount of time that you have with the ball in your hands coming here. How hard was that adjustment? And it seems like this year your shooting numbers are up, your assist numbers are up. You're definitely more comfortable. You battled some injuries last year, but I would assume that first year was a pretty tough adjustment.
Yeah, that first year was tough on me. Just to like you said, I've been in a system where I was the primary ball handler for 35 minutes of the game, just, constantly had the ball in my hand, whether I was shooting or not. And to come here where, you got Donovan, you got JC, you got Joe, a bunch of guys who can handle the ball. And I spent a lot of my time just kind of finding my way, into the corner and spacing and just trying to really learn to be a player, an effective player from that aspect. And with injuries on top of that, it was just a rocky kind of start to it. And I think as the season went on last year, got to the bubble, everything started to smooth out a little bit more. I started to understand where I can be effective and my role a little bit better. And this season is basically just all come together early on. So just trying to continue to understand I won't have the ball every time. So when I do, just make the most of it and be as efficient as possible.